Hello, my name is Francis Fox, and I'm sorry reading. We don't usually get called for anything that I do in English. But I'm here to bring the horoscopes for this the 25th, 20th to the 5th, 29th of September to the 5th of October. This is a critical week in written human history. I had said several days ago that there was a break in the crust of the planet, and when I did the horoscopes in Spanish yesterday, and then I did a chat at night about what's going to happen, I could feel in my body, I could feel the breaks. And in the beginning of the chat last night, probably 7:15, 7:20, not sure the time, I could feel something hit me in the back upper chest. And it was an off-planet attack, and it landed on Israel. The only reason I'm sharing this now in the horoscopes is because we will, as human beings, underestimate what off-planet enemies can do and point the finger at each other. So it would not be surprising to me that a war starts simply because we were not able to diagnose properly where the original injury of the attack came from. Sharing is caring. So where are we at? 2 or 3 weeks ago, the Dolphins told me that break that is talked about in the Bible and is talked about by the Mayans and by the Dolphins in humanity, because of the law of attraction, because there's two different frequencies on the planet. One frequency has done a lot of inner work and is looking for peace, and the other frequency still has a lot of repressed rage due to things that happened to them as an individual, even if it was that they witnessed something that happened to their country and they felt that it was an attack on them. I'm going to say important things because my body is demanding I get a Kleenex, which I do not use at all other than during my chats. And we established years ago that happens when I start to get attacked at this level because I'm going to say something important. So the spirits know what I'm going to say before I say it, or they know that it's important when I'm just making a statement that seems like each and every other one. So, got my Kleenex. So the Dolphins said that the planet had divided into two frequencies, and there was no time to lament and to complain or to point fingers. Simply, the inner work was not done, and that inner work has to do with the countries also. So I'm not going to go into a speech about the work of the Mantrista movement, but I can tell you that the first big project that we had, we went to 20 countries and we purified the repressed rage in their land, in their soil, so that in the future, that would not be causal for some kind of a war or some kind of rebellion or activity. Without the people that were at war or rebelling knowing that the causal was from 100 and some years ago, when that particular country was invaded and the people could not express their rage and hate, they absorbed it, shut it down, and Mother Earth absorbed it, and it was sitting there waiting for a trigger. So Latin America should be calmer than the rest of the planet because I'm not sure that anybody else did that. But the fact that I'm getting several people here that I don't know that appear to be Anglo or not necessarily from Latin America means that maybe the bad guys don't quite have the chokehold on me that they have had until now. But let's go ahead into the horoscopes. Let me say that the planets are energies that transfer to you. You have other energies. You have energies that transfer from the land where you were born. Even if your mother was in a plane, it landed, and she gave birth in a country, and she was only there for 18 hours, but you were born there, you have the influence of that country and the history of that country. So that's an influence. Your traumas are an influence. But why am I talking about this if I'm doing horoscopes? Because the planets send you energy. That's it. They send it. You may not benefit from it because you, particularly the good stuff, because you have something that's blocking it. There's two things. you have been cursed, you have black magic on you, and you didn't even know that that can be done. Or you knew, but you figured out you just limp a little bit, it's okay. And that stops you from getting the good stuff. The second thing that stops you is if you had a huge trauma when you were young and you never purified your reaction to the trauma. It's not that you have to purify the trauma. When your mind and your spirit astral body purifies their reaction to the trauma, be it a rape or an assault, going through an earthquake, losing your entire family in a car accident, whatever it is, especially when you're young, you have a reaction, and that leaves you without the protection because this mind streams, which fan out and create a canopy, when you go into shock, you go, and many of your mind streams close in, and after the trauma, you still have a portal open due to the trauma, even though the trauma's over. And I'm going to say a quick story because I always like to be sharing information that can teach people what they need to know to take care of themselves, not to come to me, to take care of themselves. I had a class on the heart energy center, the heart chakra, and the chakras have petals. And one person, I said, "You're missing an entire petal." How did that happen? I'm not sure I've ever seen this before. And then I went, okay, I checked. And she was, oh, I don't know. I checked. And I said, did you have somebody that was kidnapped? And she was from Colombia. And she said, yes, my brother was kidnapped, but he's okay. They brought him back. He's fine. That was years ago. I said, you know what? It's not fine. You're missing a whole petal. You're going to have a heart condition. The chances of you dying of a heart attack are really high and young. You're missing a whole piece of you. She never did any work on purifying that trauma because it was over. The brother came back. So let me have you pay attention to my eyes and notice my left eye looks significantly different from my right eye. I'm into a lot of trauma right now. And your trauma, not just mine, your left eye is connected to the left eye of Horus, which is connected to your spirit body, which is your astral emotional body. And I'm going through an awful lot now. So my left eye is limping. Okay? I don't have any more makeup. Maybe underneath I have more in my right eye. But other than that, I don't have any more in my left or my right eye. But it's limping. So one way you can tell if your kids are doing well, your boss, your mate, yourself. You look in the mirror and you check your eyes. And if your left eye is limping, whether it is a pimple, cataracts in that eye, I just realized that. It has to do with emotional responses to something very negative. So let's go ahead and start with the horoscopes. I don't know how much your tolerance level is. Okay, so we're going to start as usual with Aries. Aries is a male sign and it's a fire sign, a fire element, which is the element for transformation, for burning things. It's hot. We're in a planet that we have an excess of the fire. So if you're a fire sign, you're probably really struggling with frustration and anger and rage, things burning up, you burning things up. Just a little piece of information. Let me see. My dog is fine. Whenever you see me doing that, I'm trying to check where my pet is. So Aries, what do you need to know this week? 28th of September to the 5th of October, 2025. Aries. I see you in tremendous movement here, but it's almost like people are putting documents in front of you and you're signing them. Next, they put another document, you're signing them. Next, you put. That's not what came up in the Spanish horoscopes yesterday, but yesterday was not today. Lots of stuff happened last night. I don't know what this means, but it certainly looks like you're signing a lot of things and you are signing them very quickly. And I see you satisfied, and I see you with a ballpoint pen and you click it, you're finished signing. And then you stand up and say to somebody, I hope this works. So And I hope this particular horoscope works for you, Aries. The next sign we're going to look at is Taurus, which is a female sign of the earth element. The earth element gives you stability and grounding, but it can also make you really lethargic, and it will make it hard for you to make decisions. You don't move quickly. So sometimes there's something coming down the pike that's going to run you over, and you don't get out of the way in time because you're an earth sign and you got to think about it and you got to make sure, and you don't know, and maybe it's not what it looks like. So that's why you have to have all the elements balanced so that you can make decisions and live life in a way that is more efficient. So, earth sign, Taurus, female. Forever I've seen Taurus inside the house, recycling. That's why a lot of Tauruses get Parkinson's disease, just recycling and recycling. I'll do this, I'll do that. Oh, I'm going to do that. Well, maybe it's not right. Maybe I should have chosen the other thing. You know what? I'm not going to make any decision. But that's not where Taurus has been for like the last month. Taurus actually walked out of their house, and I could see Taurus outside the front door, but still not settled and not pointed in a direction. So how is Taurus this week? Taurus's hands are trembling. They've got their keys in their hands, and they're locking the front door. They're outside, which means they're not going back in. They made a decision. They're going to do something. They're turning around, they breathe deeply, and they go, may God help me. So Taurus made a really big decision and is finally going to go for it. This is good, Taurus. I suspect you made a good decision, and I suspect don't take this long. You don't want to end up with some kind of a condition that has to do with the fact that you dilly-dally because you're an earth sign and you're afraid to make a mistake. Since when has perfection existed? And our mistakes always teach us things. Got to remember that. When you have a problem, whether it's your mistake or someone else, always have to say, why do I need this problem? I have been basically under self-imposed house arrest or protective custody for over a year. I haven't been able to leave my apartment. I did leave for several months. I'd go to the grocery store maybe, and I'd go maybe have my nails done. I haven't basically left my apartment. I don't know if it's been 6 weeks. I really don't know. I'm wondering if my Tesla's going to turn on. That's how long I've not used my car. So finally, I said, well, why did I need this? I mean, like, this is really god awful. I'm a Cancer. I want to be with people. Well, guess what? I used the time for a lot of self-development, also developing things for my followers, but a lot of self-development. So any problem you have, there's a reason. And when you finish with the reason, you don't need the problem anymore. The problem goes away. It does not come back. And it doesn't matter what the problem is. It's a law. It's a rule that we weren't told about. Gemini is the next sign. Gemini is a male sign, and it's an air sign, which means a lot of thoughts, a lot of movement. Sometimes Gemini needs to take longer to think things through. And sometimes Gemini has 6 projects going at one time. And so there's a problem with completion. That's a big problem for Geminis. But it's okay. When we have a business team, we need to have the 4 elements represented. I used to only hire people like me. Miserable water signs, which is emotion. Or some earth signs, because we mix well. Earth and water mix well. I needed air sign. We could have moved quicker. I would have saved so much time. So think about that when you're putting together a team. Okay. So did I do Gemini or did I just talk about Gemini? So Gemini, no, I did not do Gemini. So Gemini this week, I see rising from you. It's like you have a platter in your hands like this. And on the platter is a Nile green pyramid that's probably around 2.5 feet tall. Pyramids are very significant. They're very stabilizing. And if the apex is pointed up, It's stabilizing on everything having to do with the physical dimension. If the apex points down, it has to do with stabilizing the spiritual dimensions from the throat up. And the Gemini has it on a platter, which is like a gift to the world. Now, interesting, because President Trump is a Gemini. And when I do the maps of the United States, which I sketch every couple of days to see how the energies are, lately there's been a lot. Actually, I should probably be able to pull one up now for you to be able to see. There's a very big green pyramid. I'm not here. I think this is here. There you got the big pyramid right there. And this map says Trump ready for whatever. So Gemini is actually presenting stability on the physical dimension and giving it to people, which is interesting because Gemini is an air sign. So it's actually a really good thing. Also very sweet, but it's a really good thing. That's what I see. I don't have the complete explanation for it. And we don't have the time for this because we have to do all the other astrological signs. So we're going to go now to Cancer, which is female sign and a water sign, and water is emotions. Okay? Cancer, from the 28th of September to the 5th of October, 2025, what do you need to know? Cancer, at this point, their mission is to help other people. They've been able to find themselves, they're no longer drowning in emotions in water, which is their sign. So they've learned how to handle their element. And they're hovering over the water in like a helicopter, and they have flags that they're handing to the people that are in the water that are actually struggling to be able to not drown or to get out. And they're handing the flags to the people. So, interpretation, Cancer continues with, rather than moving ahead, Cancer is staying with other people that are drowning in emotions and handing them flags. Now, let's see if I can see what's on the flag so that we can clean up a little bit of the question mark. The flag has an SOS on it. In other words, help. Because I think that the people that were in the water, nobody could see them. So basically, they were going to drown. So my interpretation is that Cancer is teaching people or giving people the tools to let others know that they are drowning so that they can be saved. That's sweet, because it's true. A lot of people are so used to hiding their emotions that nobody could know that they need help. So that's sweet. That's good. The United States is Cancer. And I do believe that, this is my opinion, maybe instincts, but let's say opinion, that the reason that we have so much going on in the Caribbean is to help stop bad stuff that would go down if we weren't there. I'm a Cancer. The country of Colombia is a Cancer. So that's sweet. Okay, going on to Leo. The next sign is a male sign and a fire element. Leo has spent years with too much fire, blaming everybody for everything, for all the god-awful things that happened to them, which they did happen to them, but blaming other people silently, because a Leo generally does not complain, because they're a bit of a perfectionist and they want people to see them as strong, and they want to be there for people, but they don't want people to know that they need help. So what goes on with Leo this week? They've already, by the way, cleaned up a lot of that fire that had their solar plexus basically on fire, which should mean that their digestion could not be really good, because the element of the solar plexus, which where all the digestive organs are, is ruled by fire, the element of fire. So if you have too much fire, your solar plexus is going to be in an excess and you'll have digestive issues. Okay. Liver, gallbladder, spleen, colon, pancreas. Okay. So where are you at, Mr. Fire sign, that has improved dramatically? Your chest is one big gold portal, and it's spiraling, which I'm not that happy with, but it's spiraling in the direction of the hands of a clock, which means faith. So I think Leo should feel a lot more faith in their life, in their future. This is good. Okay. I'm happy with that. I know several Leos. I'm happy with that. I'm happy for all the Leos, but particularly makes me happy because I know particular people that are Leos. Okay, so Virgo. Virgo is a male sign. No, Virgo is a female sign. It's an earth sign. There we go with like Taurus and also Capricorn, which we haven't done yet. Earth element. Traditionally, I have seen, I'm not trained in astrology. Traditionally, I have seen Virgo next to a hole, and they used to be in it, and then they got out of it, and then they'd be standing next to it, and then they'd be shoveling dirt into the hole, but not really movement. Recently, they've been moseying along, a lot more active. If you have too much earth, you end up inactive, recycling, 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 or just stuck. Virgo picked up the shovel and is examining the dirt, and in the dirt, he finds a ring. Now, a couple of weeks ago, we knew that Virgo was, without knowing it, was looking for gold. In other words, they were stuck by that hole because they were actually looking for something valuable. Well, this week, they're finding something valuable. They're finding a ring, and it has an emerald. It's an emerald ring. An emerald is a stone that protects from the bad galactics. We have a lot of alien activity, and those attacks that I am feeling, the one I felt yesterday around 7 that ended up landing on Israel, is from bad galactics. So, and I see the Virgo very satisfied, like leaning up against the shovel of that hole. It's always next to him, but I see him satisfied, like, okay, I can do this now. And if you know anything about everything I've said about Venezuela, it would make total sense. But we don't have time to go into that now. So let's continue on. And the next sign is Libra, which is an air sign and is a female sign, air element and female sign. Lots of thinking, creative, 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 not very grounded. Libra, what do we need to know? Libra has been in a basement, like subspace. Subspace is a dimension most of us didn't know existed. It's below the lowest dimension in the chakra system. The military knows about subspace, and they say, I believe if I read correctly, but I'm going to go back and find out, that the aliens that are gray and are really short, supposedly that had to come here because their planet exploded. Don't quote me on this particular thing, but I will share it. So Libra is coming up out of subspace. I think subspace corresponds to our coccyx, which has everything to do with magic and is something that most people have never even heard of. They've heard of their coccyx. They've not heard the importance of the coccyx in metaphysics, in black magic, in evil, and in white magic. So Libra is coming out of subspace, and Libra is limping, hanging on to the banister, but Libra's going to get out of there. They're not staying there anymore. And yes, I have read several times that Libra has been badly damaged by incredible black magic, very sophisticated, expensive black magic. So Libra is coming out of that, exhausted, legs trembling, but determined that they're going to get out of subspace in that basement, and they're going to do it. And this is good news because the duly elected vice president of Venezuela is a Libra. And from what my followers tell me, and I don't think this is gossip, or maybe it is, she's basically the real leader of Venezuela. not the president. There was some arrangement made because the opposition did something dirty. This is probably gossip, but I'm going to finish it anyway. And so she was not able to run for president. But everybody knew that. They said, okay, no problem. We'll make her vice president. So she's coming out of extreme, extreme darkness. And the president, the duly elected, is Virgo. And Virgo just found an emerald that will protect him from galactic. And remember what I just said. This break in the Earth's crust, we're under planetary attack. And we're going to end up blaming Israel, Hamas, the Palestinians, Trump, and that's not causal. So, okay, continuing on. Scorpio. I do, by the way, get complaints from people that say that they want me to do traditional horoscopes. I'm not an astrologer. I'm giving you the information from the planets plus additional stuff via my remote viewing skills that was trained by the government. I hate them, and yet look what they gave me. A tremendous gift that I use for what I think is good for the world. So the next sign is Scorpio. I always smile when I say Scorpio. I don't know why. I think I love Scorpios. I do. I've never had a boyfriend that's Scorpio. I've actually never had a good friend that's a Scorpio. But I always smile. I don't know why. So Scorpio, the god or goddess of karma, but not their karma. They deliver your karma. They set you up and do something so god awful that you have to face something that honestly you should have faced before. So they're putting it in your face for you to go, oh my God, did you see what this Scorpio did to me? What did they do? Well, it turns out that was a pattern. They just did it 10 times better. And you have no option but to stop in your tracks and deal with it. So, but let's go on for Scorpio. Let's give them their energies of the week, 28th of September to 5th of October, 2025. Scorpio. Scorpio is looking on a map that he has spread out on a desk. He's got a lot of men on his side watching him. And he goes, bingo, I found it. What did he find? I don't know. I don't need to know because every Scorpio will have a different type of life and different type of situations. What I can say is that it appeared that something that a lot of people need, only Scorpio is going to be able to find. And they find it this week, which is really very, very nice. I think Scorpio is not going to be so... I think Scorpio is going to get off the path a little bit of delivering hard karma to other people in order to help them. I think it's going to be in a different place. It's an opinion. Okay, continuing on to the next sign is Sagittarius, which is a male sign and it's a fire sign. I have done horoscopes for a long time. Sagittarius have got to be very miserable people. And I would suspect the Sagittarius are susceptible to getting lupus. So if you know if somebody is a Sagittarius and they have lupus, I'd really like to hear that because that would be verification of a thought that I have. Sagittarius appear to be people that are not living who they are. They're living what other people want them to be. They're not them. Okay, this week, September 28th to the 5th of October, 2025. Sagittarius. Sagittarius has a submachine gun on his left hip and that's pointed up, and then a machine gun tucked in under his right arm, and he's shooting from his left hip, and right arm he's got it and he's shooting, and he's circling around, basically ready with no issue to shoot anybody that dares to come close to him or her and the family. It's just really simple. There is no talking. There is no debate. There is no, let me explain. I think the decades of Sagittarius being so busy trying to keep everybody else okay, doing what they want, and Sagittarius never looking inside to find out what they wanted. And so that's it. This week, that's it. I don't want to hear the story. I don't want an explanation. I don't want a gift. I don't want anything. Get out of my way. 360. Interesting thing is, the dictator of Venezuela is Sagittarius. And when I have said things that I have said, my followers say that makes total sense with what's going on with him. He lost the election a year ago. He's still there. And I said he doesn't want to be there, but that was my psychic abilities. And a lot of people in the chat said, we know that he doesn't want to be there, but his group, the military around him, they're not letting him leave. So, Sagittarius, thank you for declaring yourself, declaring what it is that you want, which is for everybody to get the hell out of your way. Interesting. That'll be very good news, because if what a Sag wants is to get the heck out of there, and it is the other people that have not allowed it, that should mean that there will be astrological and planetary support for the dictator of Venezuela to leave. Those are not the only influences. So it's not a done deal yet. But certainly he's much better positioned, him and other Sages, having to do with being able to make a choice, because they're making it so dangerous for anybody to try and stand in their way. The reason I talk a lot about Venezuela is because Venezuela is very important for the process of planet Earth going into the golden age. If this can happen gracefully, and there hasn't been any major bloodshed, and this is the richest country in the world, not the United States, it's Venezuela because of the resources, then we set a pattern for the planet. Instead of violent transition of governments, or what happened to Trump, all the games played with the ballots, etc., we set a pattern for graceful transition of governments. And that's very important, because apparently we're going to be with governments for a while longer. We're not going back to a feudal system, living by campsites. Okay, continuing on with Capricorn, which is a female sign and an earth sign, earth element. Capricorn for months has been outside their property, defending their property and their people, their family, their people that are inside the property, defending their people, not their bank accounts, their people. And they've set up different systems outside the front yard so that people can't come in, all sorts of things. And so what do I see today? I see the flares that you use when you're out in a boat and you're lost, and you put up the flares so somebody can see there's somebody that needs help. But I see them planted in the ground, and there's 7 of them. I don't know what that means. And so they light a flare, and the flare goes up, and it's yellow, which is the color of emotions. So reading it symbolically, Capricorn has a lot of emotions, and they're going to let people know. Normally, Capricorn will not do that. They just do what they have to do, and people don't even know why they're doing it, but they're doing it. And we always thought it was money and family. Right now, it's family. And they're letting people know, but it's not one flare, there's 7. So they're not going to stop anytime soon, letting people know whatever emotional reaction they have to whatever it is that's going on. And that's a very good thing. That's a very good thing for an earth sign, which is not emotions. The water signs are the ones that are emotion, to be doing that. I'm happy. That's spiritual progress. Okay, going on to the next sign, which is Aquarius, which is, we're getting into the age of Aquarius. Aquarius has been very ditzy, not too grounded. They don't have enough of the earth element. They don't respect. Earth element is grounded, landed, slow. They don't have enough of the water element, or they don't want the water element, which is emotions. From what I see, Aquarius, what you're going to decide this because of an emotion? What are you doing? They don't like that. and they don't do enough of the fire element. These are my opinions, okay? Opinions based on observation, but I'm not an astrologer. Okay. And the fire, why would they get angry? I mean, you know what? People are like that. People are a little bit dumb, so they're like that. So they don't allow themselves to get that angry. So let's see. That's been changing. Let's see what we see for Aquarius this week. 28th of September, 5th of October, 2025. Their solar plexus, which is called the garbage can of emotions, is spinning in one direction and then it spins in the next direction. And then it goes back again and spins in that direction. And then it stops and spins in this direction. Total lack of control of emotions. Are they expressing them? Let me see if I can check. But they are out of control in terms of emotions. Out of control. Well, that happens if you don't deal with stuff. It tends to accumulate and then it turns to grow bigger than it would have been. So I see Aquarius saying to somebody, "You lied to me," screaming, "You lied to me." Throwing them out of the house, but then opening the door again. So it must be somebody very close to them that they're not really going to end a relationship with, but they are really, really, really angry. And they're very emotional and they're really angry. And the anger is a reaction to information, I guess, that they got. And it has to do with somebody lying to them, which would have made them feel very foolish. And that doesn't work for an Aquarius, for somebody to jerk them around and make them feel foolish. Aquarius can be a bit arrogant. They are the most evolved of all the signs mentally. And that has created, for some of them, arrogance. But they don't usually express it. I mean, in astrological gossip, they don't usually express it because, you know, why bother? It's not their fault that they don't know. Arrogant. Okay, last sign, Pisces. Pisces is a female sign, the water element, emotions, but Pisces control their emotions. And emotions are what our spirit is composed of, astral particles of emotion. Your spirit, your astral body. So denying emotions means you're denying your spirit, which means you're denying your power. So, what is going on in terms of what it is that I see this week of the 28th of September, the 5th of October, 2021, 25, 2025? Okay. Submachine gun on the left hip, a pad of paper with information on a desk, on a table next to them, and somebody's trying to give them an explanation. So Pisces is looking at the paper and say, "Okay, I'll accept that. So I'm only going to shoot you twice in the head." But I just gave you the explanation. Yes, actually, I would have used the whole, whatever you call it, of the machine gun on you and your family, but I'm not going to do that. I'm only going to shoot you twice in the head. Next. So don't mess around with the Pisces now, because you are not going to get away with everything you thought you got away with before. It's all in that pad of paper. They remember, they wrote it down, and they have in their head, they have a system of how much punishment you deserve from them for all of those things that you did. Pisces has a hard time setting boundaries, so a lot of people really overstep things with Pisces. But they never noticed. Oh, yes, they did. They didn't do anything about it, but they're going to do something about it now. And that submachine gun, Pisces is ready to use it. So as I'm telling people for the last several weeks, rethink how you're going to approach Pisces, rethink what you're doing with Pisces, for Pisces, rethink it, because it is not the game as usual. It's totally different. You may not even remember what you did to Pisces, but Pisces remembers. And you are going to pay a consequence. There's going to be no free pass, regardless of who you are in relation to Pisces. Well, that's it for the horoscopes. Again, I'm a trained remote viewer. I'm a military mind control victim. Not sure that I'm completely out from under the grip of the people that are illegally, obviously, still running the program. I was also sex trafficked. I have a history, as somebody said, oh, you should write a book about your life. And then after a while, they go, you can actually have to write 6 books because this is like a bit much. And it is. My history is too much. But it all, as is the case for all of you, you chose what you lived in this lifetime. You had a mission that you chose before you incarnated. And then the veils come down. You don't even know what the heck's going on. You don't remember that it was your mission. You don't remember that you chose these abusive people and that you chose your parents. Oh, my parents were god awful. Yeah, you chose them. So why did you choose god awful parents? I don't know. I can tell you why. Because that positions you. If your parents abused you, if there was sexual abuse from the parents or from anybody else when you were a child, you chose that. Why? Because when you're sexually abused, your psychic abilities really, really augment. No, I'm not going to be setting up a training program to have people sexually abused to augment their psychic abilities because there are other ways of doing that. But that's the way that the government understands and the cult understands. So, whatever it is that you've been through, you have to ask, why would I ask for that? My sister told me that decades ago when I started my therapy. I was like, oh my God, look at these things I'm remembering. She said, you remember you chose that? I went, look, I know I'm a bright person. Why on earth would I ever choose this? This doesn't make any sense. I did not choose this. But you know what? I did. And the day that I accepted that, everything changed. Everything changed. I felt more like a solid citizen, like, I would have chosen this. Well, maybe I'm not such a bad person because look at what I'm able to do with what happened. So I'm giving this to you because we really are at end times. There's not a lot of time for you to decide who you want to follow for this, or you need to follow several people, and they can't be new agers because they're not the people that are going to teach you about the darkness, which is where you learn the most about the light. So thank you. And we're going to try to do more in English. We do have the podcast on Spotify and on Apple. And thank you for joining me. If I can find the end button.